Welcome, welcome. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day, your night. I'm Ingrid LaFleur. I am the founder of the Afrofuture Strategies Institute, and I am speaking from Johannesburg, South Africa. It is 7 p.m. here. My mythic name is Dr. Shuluva, which I will get into in a second, but you can call me Ingrid LaFleur, Madame LaFleur, Dr. Shuluva. Either way, it's all good. I'm excited to get started today. I kind of gathered this convening to introduce my love, my heart that I've been growing for over 5 years now. It's been in my mind longer, so it's always like the start point is definitely a very abstracted thing. But the Afrofuture Strategies Institute has been a culmination of a lot of the interests that I've had over the years. And it's been really great to grow it, to experiment within it, and to just to see how it impacts others, which has been a joy. All right, so today we are going to do a little bit of dreaming. In the beginning, of course, I'm going to explain Afrofuturism and what the Afrofuture is. And then we'll get into what TASI is all about, the Afrofuture Strategies Institute, and then we'll get into some questions. My presentation should be about 30 or 40 minutes, and then we'll get into questions just so you can like schedule your time. All right, so we're going to travel to 2050. If you would like to close your eyes and get comfortable, that would be great. I prefer to have like 2 feet solidly on the ground so you can feel that energy. And let's take a deep breath in. And exhale. One more time. Take a deep breath in. And exhale. And let's breathe in all the goodness of the future. And breathe out all the fear. Imagine that you're sitting on a patch of grass, maybe in a beautiful lush park. The soil is red. And the sky is night. It's dark and filled with beautiful twinkling stars and planets. It's 2050, and majority of the planet is now African. 1 in 4 people. Africa has become the most climate resilient continent, surpassing all others. Direct flights to and from Africa are growing, starting with Nigeria to Jamaica 30 years ago. And now we have direct flights from Ghana to Brazil, Benin to Haiti, and more. Many Black Americans began to move to Latin America and the Caribbean to escape the political confusion of the US, but they are able to stay in their time zones so they can still work. Thus, the direct flights to African countries made it easier for Black Americans to access Africa. The trade between the two regions, the global West and the global East, in the global South, The trade increased, with African countries refining their raw materials and innovating with it in ways that we have yet to see. It was part of the Africa First agenda the African Union created once the geopolitical turmoil saw aid from the West completely dry up. As a result, universal basic income and resource was created. So all needs of those on the continent of Africa were taken care of. Energy was free because it was mostly solar powered. And there was high-speed internet across Africa as a result. And the innovations that came from it increased triple-fold. This allowed people to live in rural areas and have access to digital tools and remain abreast of the markets. The contemporary art market grew from South Africa into Lagos, Addis Ababa, Nairobi, Dakar, Accra, and Kingston. 2050 ended up being a very prosperous time, even amidst all the political uncertainty. What is a day like in that year, 2050? Where are you living? What do you see, smell, hear? When you're ready, please write down what you've seen. And if you feel so moved, you can share it in the chat. I'll give you a couple minutes. All right. I'm going to ask a quick question. I'm curious. How did you feel about the year 2050? Excited, worried, and anxious? Are you embracing it with a mix of worry and excitement? You have a minute or so to answer. Oh, this is fun. Okay. So most of you are excited, which is amazing. And I'm so happy for that. Awesome. I'm going to end the poll. All right. You can hear. So the future. I've been into the future for quite a while now. As many of you know, I'm an Afrofuturist. I've been known for my work within Afrofuturism for quite some time. I started over 20 years ago when it was coined in the mid 1990s. I learned about it while I was in college, and it really appealed to me because I was already an out-of-the-box kind of thinker. My parents were taking me to psychic fairs by the time I was the age of 12. Uh, so I already knew about auras and past lives and so on and so forth, Atlantis. So Afrofuturism felt like home for me, where a lot of us who didn't really fit within that box of Blackness could kind of gather and geek out. Over time, I really enjoyed how it kind of challenged our ideas around Blackness, what Blackness can be, and where it would go. And once Di Denange Agbem Dost out of Chicago. She's an amazing professor, but she was one of the first professors. And she, in an interview, said that Afrofuturism was a liberation movement. And that just changed everything. So it went from this aesthetic, cultural, fun thing to something that had purpose and was like a tool that could be used. So when I returned home back to Detroit in my late 30s, I thought it was a great time to implement Afrofuture work in hopes to shift some minds. I did that for a couple of years, and then I really got into the social economics of Detroit. We were struggling at the time. We had a high poverty rate, especially when you add the working poor. So I was trying to think of alternatives because our future, as it stood, was not one that was thriving, beautiful, joyful in any way, shape, or form. And so that's when I got into the activist community in Detroit and then decided to run for mayor in 2017. Um, I think honestly, you would think that running for mayor was a pivotal moment, but really digging deep into the artist community and the activist community, they kind of intertwine in Detroit, really shaped a lot of my ideas and theories that I ended up developing later on. During my run for mayor, I suggested a universal basic income and to deal with the poverty issue using a cryptocurrency, possibly based on the marijuana industry. This was right before legalization. Um, and then ended up working for a startup in blockchain tech and really got into how blockchain technology, the tech behind cryptocurrency, could really do some amazing things. Create digital cooperatives, for instance, which we completely understand that Black people need another economic system, especially within the US, to tap into to support us. And then that was a really interesting journey that I'm still in love with the possibilities of blockchain technology. But I ended up meeting the director of the Institute for the Future. We both received an award in California, and I was like, there's an Institute for the Future. That's when I decided to get my Master's of Science of Foresight at University of Houston. So that formalized my relationship with the future and basically sent me on my way. But I still was unsatisfied with how we were imagining the future. And then thinking about the statistics, 1 in 4 people are going to be African by 2050, probably majority Nigerian. And then 41% of the world will be living on Africa's continent, on the continent of Africa. So if we still are dealing with anti-Blackness, I'm confused about how this future is going to develop. And that became a central part of my concern and research as a grad student. And so that had me return back to Afrofuturism. So this is my definition of Afrofuturism. Um, it is a wonderful cultural movement that is seen across so many different disciplines: architecture, art, fashion, design, music, literature. And it's all speculating on the existence of Black people outside of the current reality. And it's using speculative modalities like surrealism and horror or science fiction to express these futures. Uh, that is probably the most fun, fascinating part of Afrofuturism and the most seductive. But then it can get really into the weeds of what is the relationship between race and technology and race and science. Um, Ruha Benjamin, professor out of Princeton, writes a lot about racist technology. And that kind of investigation is also part of the Afrofuture ecosystem. We are at once using Afrofuture aesthetic as a lens to see what could be, but then also what could be in the positive, but also what could be in the negative, right? And so Octavia Butler's Parable of the Sower, Parable of the Talents has been referenced quite often as an example of her putting futures research skills to really great use and giving us a fantastical trajectory that is quite dystopian about what could happen. But within that dystopia, always, you still have agency, you still have the tools to deal with and navigate and to even create your own utopia within that space. I love Afrofuturism for feeding our minds with the narratives and histories that come from these different mythologies and cosmologies and spiritual practices from the African diaspora. But we also look at just kind of the global indigenous practices. It really is a returning to the inner power, to the connection of all living beings to the earth, the cosmos. It is a way of coming to. I think in a lot of indigenous cultures have pathways to that, and Afrofuturism kind of embraces that all. It's very open, it's very evolving, and everyone has their own definition. But because of its nonlinear kind of way of being, I really am open to all the definitions, and I find it really fascinating and exciting. So after years of working within Afrofuturism, I started kind of thinking about what is the thinking behind the production, the cultural production of it, right? That artwork or that building or that clothing, what is the mindset that you have first to produce that? So I've come up with these three areas. Afrofuture thinking is rhythmic and nonlinear. It is always ancestral, and it's pleasure filled. Uh, as some of you know, I am a pleasure activist, and this is really important to me because oftentimes we think about creating these kind of liberatory spaces without thinking about the pleasure of the space. Uh, I think it's incredibly important to center pleasure. It also helps people to finish a task, for instance, or to come and join a movement through joy, through laughter, delight. All of these things are very seductive and can really create good bonding as well. The ancestral piece, this is like a non-negotiable, just that beautiful foundation of ancestral wisdom so that we're not always starting at A and we can just skip on over. Our ancestors did a lot of beautiful work, so we can start maybe at, I don't know, Q. But the starting over again or thinking that we can do things without that indigenous wisdom, that ancestral wisdom, is really not smart. And the rhythmic nonlinear, I like to explain nonlinear time, living, being like jazz. Um, the improvisation of it, the call and response that can happen, and the rhythm that organically comes out of that as a result. That, to me, is the nonlinear kind of space. Also, past, present, and future kind of collapse to each other within the Afrofuture space. So this is why I say sometimes we're moving in different dimensions or realities. It's not just different time-based spaces, like a past or a future. And the nonlinear part of Afrofuture thinking, Afrofuture living can be the trickiest part. But we're here to help you. So uses of the erotic, oh my. As a pleasure activist, I've been focusing a lot on simple pleasures, but recently I wrote a paper on using erotic power within leadership role. That was a great challenge, but also an eye opener. And really diving into this essay that I come back to over and over and over again, I see that how erotic power, once generated, can really help you to feel. And this is what Audre Lorde, a feminist writer, mother, really wanted us to understand, is that there is a way for us to feel that life force within the colonial space, within oppressive spaces, spaces of control of our bodies. They don't want us to feel. That is something that they can't really regulate per se, right? Not unless we let them. And that erotic power is just so strong. And so how can we like tap into that power to really create something really beautiful that's beneficial for everyone? But it first starts within the internal. So another poll. What does the Afrofuture mean to you? This one is a short poll. I mean, a short answer. So I will come back to that in terms of getting the results. This one. Awesome. The Afrofuture Strategies Institute, I definitely created it without really knowing what I wanted to do with her. And it took time, it took grad school, it took speaking to colleagues, being influenced by artists, all of it to really understand what I want to do within this gorgeous container I've created. So the Afrofuture strategies, like what is that? And that is something that I have been asking myself a lot. And in doing world builds for the past year or so, and writing the different papers and doing the various investigations through conversations, long nights, I've come to really understand that within the Afrofuture space, you're already free, you're already liberated. Yes, we are working for liberation on a collective level, on a systemic level, but internally we're already free. That image, the welcome image, that black and white image, was of Sun Ra. He's the godfather of Afrofuturism, and he was a jazz musician who said that he was from the planet Saturn, and he gave himself that name, Sun Ra, which is from the gods Ra in ancient Egypt. So he was always expressing his myth. He created his own narrative, created his own name, said that his music was supposed to transport his people back home to the planet Saturn. My friends who knew him and who had met him, they would ask him over and over and over, where are you from? And he would always say Saturn. He was very dedicated to his narrative. And this is a man who created this narrative in the 50s and held onto it all the way into the 80s, 90s. And so that shows how the myth creates or punctures, I think is a good way of saying, the oppressive realm that is trying to be put onto you. Those oppressive narratives that are put onto the Black body, the myth just kind of breaks that open. And this is what he was showing us in action and in his speeches. He really, really wanted us to be free and was quite frustrated that we weren't getting there fast enough. But it's not that you believe it. You have to feel it. You have to express it. And then you have to fuel it. And that fueling of that liberated state expands and stimulates the imagination. And from there, you can explore the possibility because now your imagination is open and you can experiment, but of course, justice-oriented experimentation, no harm. We really want to experiment towards good, and then we manifest. And so this is just a quick, short journey of how we like to move anyone who works with us through these kinds of steps. So TASI helps you to achieve and maintain a liberated mind, body, and spirit. And we do that through the Dinkinesh method. I created this while in grad school, and it just kind of breaks down the various steps to kind of imagining the future. Dinkinesh, she was born 3.5 million years ago in what is now Ethiopia. I love to represent her as the triple goddess. For me, she's our mythical beginning. We know her in the West as Lucy, but her Amharic name, Dinkinesh, means you are marvelous. And I absolutely love that. So the Dinkinesh method is loving on you and is also shifting your mind state into the Afrofuture. And so these are the various portals of the Dinkinesh method. You have living myth, where you create your mythic identity, and this is where Dr. Shiluva comes from. Dr. Shiluva, her power is to bring out your mythic power. And also her villain are those who harm our food systems. And she loves to thrive on raw foods, like raw vegetables and fruits. And she absolutely needs to dance 30 minutes a day. So that is Dr. Shiluva. The narrative of her is actually quite large and long. And that's something that I would ask of you when you go through this process. Dark matter is thinking about the systems. You know, oftentimes they find people reimagining the same system. And so how do we kind of make sure that we're not imagining something that's harmful? So in dark matter, it's both analysis of the systems that are already at play, like racial capitalism, and then we flip it into thinking about creating a different type of system that is better and healthier and more harmonious for us and all living beings. Cosmic magic, this is when we're reclaiming those spiritual practices the spiritual intelligence that was sent down from us, from our ancestors, from the spirit realm. We're going to get into it and call them forward. Within the colonial realm, within this kind of capitalist space, the spirit there's no space for spirit. And so I just really want to make sure that we are reconnecting, and this is outside of religion. And we're reconnecting with the spirits. We're thanking our ancestors for our existence, for what we receive, the gifts that they've given us. And so we dive deeper into that in cosmic magic and altered destiny. I have used signal scanning and picking up what's on the horizon with tech, emerging tech and emerging science. There's a lot of crazy things out there, some good things, some exciting things, and some worrying things. And so this is where I really have you become a futures researcher and dive deeper into the emerging tech and science, but then also bringing all of the previous elements together to create your scenario or your ancient future object. And then the continuum is the last portal. And this is like the ongoing futures practice that you develop. And we help you with that. And it does mean really kind of tapping into your mythic self, having a ritual around that, having a ritual around signal scanning, seeing and keeping abreast of what's on the horizon. But yeah, you create your own futures research practice that really speaks to your own goals personally and in your work life. So TASI empowers you to find your most free state through the use of the erotic. And again, the uses of the erotic. I really like how she really brings in, and I just spoke of this, how the separation of the spiritual and the political is false. So how do we bring that together? And how do we pull from that well of knowledge from that erotic intelligence? And so we can do that through our self-guided online course called Dream Weaving with Dinkanesh. It's 40 days of Afrofuture thinking, but do not get overwhelmed by that. It is actually a nice long meditation. Every day there are small prompts that I give you. They're not overwhelming. This is not school. This is supposed to be seductive and enjoyable and delicious, right? The shifting of your mind into the Afrofuture. It's 40 days because I base it on the Kemetic calendar where it's 10-day weeks, excuse me. So it's 10-day weeks. So you have 2 spiritual days and 3 work days, 2 spiritual days and 3 work days. So the pattern of each portal has each week, and that is the pattern. So I will give you maybe like 2 meditations, 3 activities, 2 meditations. And I always place certain activities that I think might be emotionally and mentally straining right next to a meditation day. And that's how you move through each portal except the continuum. So that's why it's 40 days in the continuum. Of course, it's the forever portal. When you take the course, you have it for a lifetime. It may shift and change according to, I don't know, new information. It might shift different artists as reference and so on and so forth. So you always have access to it. It is in the container of you becoming an Afronaut. And so what you're asked is to write a proposal for an Earther community on Turia. And Turia is a planet that some of the Drexians landed. Now, Drexia is a myth from Detroit where women who are pregnant go overboard and create this aquatopia. And this electronic music duo who created the myth of the same name, Drexia, would play the sounds coming from that aquatopia. Eventually, the Drexians go to another planet, Grava 4. Well, I expand that myth to it being a couple of ships go to Turia. And so we've been communicating with them, and it's in the future. And so they've invited us to create this Earther community, but they don't trust us because they know what happened to their ancestors, right? They know about the transatlantic slave trade. They know about how inhumane humans can be. So through this process of going through the 40 days of Afrofuture thinking, you are building a proposal to present to the Elder Council on Turia. So how would you imagine an Earther community on another planet? Afrofuture coaching and for individuals and groups. This is one of my favorite things to do. I sit with individuals and we really get into how to harness Afrofuture thinking and apply it to their lives in very specific ways. I also make recommendations for films to read, books to read, excuse me, films to see and books to read, articles to access, exhibitions to experience, so on and so forth. We also create images as well of the future, of their mythic identity. So it really depends on the individual. So I always do an evaluation beforehand so that I understand what needs might need to be met. When you take the Afrofuture coaching for individuals, it is best to take the Dream Weaving with Dinkinesh course first, or you have an elongated first session with me where I go through the entire method with you first. The reason for that is the familiarity with the Dinkinesh method really helps with the coaching experience since it will completely influence our process. I also do Afrofuture coaching for groups, mostly for organizations who might want to just get together and have this more casual conversation and understanding of how to integrate Afrofuture thinking into their work. TASI inspires you to imagine, strategize, and activate transformative possibilities. So we have Afrofuture world building. For 3 hours, we create a new something. So the upcoming one, this Saturday, is the future of housing. You can find out more information on the website. The future of erotic power is coming up in April. These world builds are really fun. I always get energetically high from them, and I really love having them monthly. I think it's a good time for adults to play. TASI equips you with the tools to integrate Afrofuture thinking into your creative and strategic practices. So Afrofuture Journeying for organizations, I created a whole process for organizations to go through a journeying process beyond the coaching. And that involves a one-day retreat, and you get your own booklet, and we kind of craft our journeying based on a future you want to investigate. TASI supports you in curating justice-oriented, culturally specific futures. So I do a lot of consulting. The last project I consulted on is an exhibition on the women of Afrofuturism, and it will be opening in May. It will be in the San Francisco International Airport in the International Terminal. They have a museum there. And it was just such a pleasure to recommend and suggest a lot of my favorite Afrofuture thinkers, past and present. I also create, excuse me, uh, customized tours for people who want to learn more about the future within Africa. And also, I consult on the contemporary art market. I've been working in the market for, goodness, over 20 years. That's its own story. And if you are just looking for a way to kind of move in an Afrofuture direction, I'm your girl. TASI unlocks new ways for you to merge creativity, strategy, and Afrofutures thinking. So these are my speaking engagements: erotic visionary leadership, finding freedom through Afrofuture thinking, and integrating nonlinear approaches. These are all fun. Of course, I can speak on quite a few other things that might be of interest to you. Just let me know. I have a podcast coming up. The intro is already up. I'm really excited about this podcast. I've been thinking about it for a long, long time. This is an opportunity for me to share some of my stories that connect to the Afrofuture, so that you can see Afrofuturism in practice. And then also diving into like, what is pleasure within this space? What is erotic pleasure? What is the simple pleasures? What roles do they play? And so please subscribe, and also follow us on all the social medias. I will get to that in a second. So the dream. So I have a couple of dreams that I want. Of course, I would love more workshops and more speaking engagements, more opportunities to engage with all of you. But also, I want to hire more younger Afrofuturists, Afrofuture thinkers. I want this to be a space for them to do their research, to do their work, and really just kind of help to create an ecosystem of culture-specific futures research. I mean, eventually, one big, huge dream of mine is to create a scholarship program for people of color to go and get their foresight degree. We're sorely underrepresented within the industry, in the futurist space in general. And so just constantly thinking about how to increase the numbers and what more support can I give. I would love to offer more spots within the Afro World Builds in my workshops for free. So that would be like really amazing. Your donations can help with that. And to create eventually a physical space. I used to have a physical space. This is like I don't know if you could see Dinkanesh. This came from a physical space that I created in tandem with an exhibition, Manifest Destiny in Detroit. I really enjoyed having Afrofuture material available for purchase that was really affordable, and then having an exhibition, programming, and so on and so forth. But then also, now that I'm in Foresight, the amount of games within the future space is insane. So having this physical space would make more of this material easy to access. And of course, I would like to have it on the continent. So these are just some of my big dreams. So if you donate, because we are fiscally sponsored, then we would be allocating towards these 3 different areas. And I would love for you to kind of join us. I will be asking on the podcast for people to contribute to their scenarios or visions of the future that I will be sharing on the podcast. Also, we'll share some on the newsletter. Also, if there are any films or books or things that you think I should highlight, please let me know. Sharing is caring. Of course, please help me spread the word of all the work that I'm doing. I definitely appreciate that, and any recommendations that you would give on our behalf, that would be great. And play with us. If you see that there's some sort of an alignment there, I would love to co-create something with you. So this is our contact. I'm most active on LinkedIn and Instagram. We're getting to TikTok slowly but surely. This is my email address. Please feel free to contact me. And if you have any questions, definitely email me, but also go to our website, afrofuturestrategies.com, and has all the information that I just went over. And another poll. What is your dream for the future of TASI? I would love to see what I will share in a second what you guys said for the last poll. And this poll result is for me. So please share what any dreams, wishes you have for TASI. That would be great as we slowly evolve and grow. I would love to learn more. So, if you have questions, please d direct message me, and I will grab them. Yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for coming. I deeply appreciate you spending the time with me. Oh, wow. 35 of you guys. That's great. So please let me know if you have any questions. I'm going to stay online for a little bit. Hey. And yeah, I'm just going to hang out for a while with my tea. And I can also unmute you as well. Oh, you're welcome.
I'm so excited to do this program with you.
What?
I didn't think I was going to be able to do the program with you, but I think it turns out that I will be able to. And it sounds so exciting. These programs were just, the prompts were so inspiring.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it. uh,
It's really exciting.
yes, I really hope that we co-create together. That would be really wonderful. So I'm glad that there's no questions. I was so thorough. I am gonna stop recording.